Hello, and welcome to another episode of. Wait a minute here. What is going on? Okay. Anyway, let me start this all over. Hello, welcome to another ohmTown Daily News Show. I am Mayor Watt. That's my site. If you go over to ohmTown.com, you can check it all out. And what is ohmTown? It's an aggregator of news built specifically for me. Eventually I opened it up at the beginning of this year. I said, well, people have told me that this is a fun site where it can aggregate a bunch of news. It focuses on the news on the front page. There isn't user submitted material, but when you click on links, then you get taken into it and you can make comments and submit giffies to it. And eventually you'll be able to vote, but right now the voting system is broken. I'm a one-person shop over there at ohmTown right now. I'm the only one that's running it and the one that's managing it. I am the mayor of ohmTown. So go on over there and check it out, but not until after the stream and after you're done hanging out on Twitch. So at any rate, there's a podcast, there's a YouTube channel that stores everything long term. Again, I mention this periodically. I am not a Twitch partner. I don't have long-term storage anywhere on Twitch. So every 14 days, that 15th day drops off. But I've been doing this for 98 episodes now since the beginning of the year. And so they're all over there on YouTube, and I'm adding them to the podcast. It's current. Yesterday's episode went up this afternoon. I was really busy with work. I couldn't submit it any sooner. So if you're in my chat, welcome to ohmTown. I hope you get a kick out of this. It's really a broad swath of news, not particularly focused on any one thing. As you can see across the top of the page there, as I mouse over it, there's 6 main categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. To me, all of it is news, but there's a category specifically for certain types of news. It's easier to just say news than to have a menu option that says certain types of news. And create is creator, but there's a lot of different stuff under there. So I don't want to say maker. I've talked about this in the past. I'll get into the news in a minute. I wanted to talk about briefly a couple of podcasts that I listened to. One is called Pivot. It's been around for a long time. And it talks about business. And then there's another one, Professor G Pod, which is basically it's the the podcast from Scott Galloway, who's very involved in the startup space and business in general, and is a professor who teaches business, mass communication, and along with Kara Swisher, run Pivot and everything associated with it. I mean, it's just a massive enterprise. Um, so I wanted to draw some attention because they were talking um, today about, and not really today, ever since Elon Musk bought a 9.4% stake in Twitter, they've been talking about Elon Musk. And the podcast from Galloway is basically an extension of the Pivot podcast. They talk to some degree about the same type of materials. So pick your battle. If you want to listen to both of them, then you do Pivot. If you want to listen to just Scott Galloway, then do the Professor G podcast or pod. At any rate, so I wanted to talk about this because Elon Musk bought into uh, Twitter and was put on the board. And then there was some talk about there was this acquisition, and then he was put on the board, but there was conversations prior to all of this, which becomes uh, an SEC issue. Possibly, maybe. I'm not sure. I mean, when you have that much wealth, really, is any issue going to come at you? Um, and it kind of drove home this point of mine in that when you have that level of personal wealth, you are unassailable. You can say anything you want, you can do anything you want, even when you drop down to a level where you're not the richest person on the planet. That massive amount of wealth allows you to skirt legality, skirt all manner of etiquette. You are untouchable, literally untouchable. Um, and you don't even have to really do anything outside of the bounds of normal human interaction. You don't have to be violent. You don't have to commit physical crimes. Or any crimes really. You can just buy your way uh, into controlling a a vehicle for communication, wherein you can say and do pretty much anything you want to anyway, and now you can do it with relative impunity. Nobody's going to kick you off of Twitter if you own 9.4% of it. I find it very hard to believe that that would ever happen. So, to me, it just seems like this is whatever comes next is kind of a parting shot across the bow of society, in that in the United States, at least, the wealth is getting to the point where there are a very small group of people that can control everything. Um, and in doing so, the regular Joes lose options. And I'll probably hear from people, well, not it's I'll win the game. As somebody, and more than one person has said to me, in my line of work, they've said, well, I'll win the game. No, no, you'll win your perception of the game, which is fine. You should be happy with that, but you're not going to win the game that everybody else is playing. um, and particularly not the ultra rich. You'll never get to that level in your lifetime. Because really, unless you are the anomaly in society, um, most of the people who are billionaires started out as millionaires, and simply had the ability to take advantage of opportunity when it uh, presented itself. Not to mention skill and ability and knowledge. It, I'm not discounting some people being ultra rich and brilliant. Um, so I took that little bit of discussion, that little bit of thought, about, um, talking about it. They were talking about it on Pivot, and then I was thinking about it already, uh, because it was such a mind-boggling purchase. Um, and then I coupled it with other things where there are companies that are worth, billions of dollars, and they are international corporations that are untouchable, literally untouchable. Short of fining them financially, you're never going to put a company in jail for doing some illegal act. Good luck trying to prosecute even the C-suite of a international conglomerate corporation. And then you have like global conflict, where companies are are exploiting the conflict and making tons of money. And this has happened in history. And you say, well, people respond to me when I talk about it as being opportunistic. They say, well, somebody's got to do it. You might as well, you know, feed the request for building war machines and make money, right? Well, society is saying no. Society says get out of that country because they're invading another country or they are doing something that is a crime against humanity. Yet the companies are so large that if you as society step away from it, you say, well, I'm going to I'm not veto. I'm going to no longer um, purchase any of X company's products. You're going to end up sipping water from a tiny little cup that you've whittled out of a tree. Um, and it took you a month because you had to use a sharpened stone because the company makes pretty much everything. And I'm not talking about one specific company. I'm talking about there's so many companies that are still profiting from conflict. Well, somebody has to do it is the response that I get from a lot of people. Um, and I might, lump them into a category of sociopath because you have to distance yourself from humanity to just say, well, somebody's got to profit. Um, so that is where I ended up today, saying, well, where does society fall in this? Because we're living day by day, going to work, paying our bills, coming home, uh, living with our friends and family and whatnot. But we will never see $1 billion. Yet there are people that are making 500,000 in a year. And people will defend that as, well, who are you to say? Well, I'm the person that when I'm driving down the road and I give $10, $20, whatever I might have to a homeless person who is standing in the median of a road, I'm the person that is saying, how can this be? Why does this exist? That's where I'm coming from. So, not to be on my soapbox from beginning to end today, but this is the thing that society should ponder. You may not want to, that's fine, but I will get into the news. But I just wanted to take a moment on this Friday, right before the weekend, where everybody's going to enjoy their weekend, talk about something real. And now I'll just start talking about the news. I've already picked out the 20 articles. I am like usual, I didn't read any of this material except that I might have some historical context to it. I might have some experience already in it. It's usually so, but let's get into the news. The very first article is SpaceX successfully launches first all private crew en route to space station for Axiom Space. So this morning, SpaceX successfully launched a new crew of 4 astronauts to orbit on the company's Crew Dragon spacecraft, a group that includes 3 customers who have reportedly paid millions for their seats. The 4 private flyers riding to space with a commercial aerospace company called Axiom Space are now en route to the International Space Station after launching from Cape Canaveral, Florida on SpaceX Falcon 9. Pretty neat stuff going on. One of these days, it's going to be like Gattaca. We're just going to be launching people off into space with regularity. And there's a picture of it. So this article is over from The Verge, and it's written by Lauren Grush. I stopped my music, by the way. So if you are listening to this and you prefer that background music, just let me know. And let's see here. Their mission, called AX-1, AX-1, is the first in a series of 4 missions that Axiom plans to conduct in partnership with SpaceX. Axiom's long-term goal is to build a fleet of commercial space stations, beginning with Axiom Station. The company plans to attach the first module of Axiom Station to the ISS as early as 2024 before eventually breaking away and building a free-flying platform. I hope they do it quick, because ISS is going away. Unless maybe they can buy it and just use it as the core. You end up, already having something built and maybe capable for a longer term out there. You can go over and read the rest of this article. Basically, it just shows the people that went up. And now is the age of regular retail flight. Pretty amazing time to be around, y'all. Yes, I said y'all. So this next article, I'll continue on, is a new Star Trek The Motion Picture Director's Edition drops in 4K on Paramount Plus. If you don't subscribe to Paramount Plus, I'm going to encourage you to do it so that you can watch Star Trek stuff. There's a typo in the article, but let's see if it's actually there when I click the link in a little bit. Star Trek The Motion Picture, a seminal first film of the franchise that first premiered in 1979. It is finally available to stream on Paramount Plus. It's been remastered to 4K, which is awesome. I haven't seen it yet, but I will maybe tonight. I haven't seen it actually on Paramount Plus yet, so I'll take a gander after the stream. This isn't the first time a sci-fi film has been re-released with updates. Of course not. This article is over at Variety, and it's written by Anna Tingley. I wonder if it will be obvious that it's just been upscaled. Usually the compositing becomes really evident when you see something that's been poorly remastered. And by that, I mean the compositing becomes evident. You can actually see the cells for the compositing portion of anything. Usually involving space, and you can actually see the cells kind of snap onto the screen. It's quite fascinating. But maybe they've done a really bang up job. It says, let's see, this isn't the first time the sci-fi film has been re-released with updates. Director Robert Weiss revisited the film in 2001, releasing a fine edit with enhanced visuals on DVD. Now 10 years later, following Wise's death in 2005, a new team... What? Hold on a second. Yeah, this is... well, that's a weird... Now 10 years later, following Wise's death in 2005? I don't know what to make of this. Anyway, apparently it's on Paramount Plus, and I'm just going to leave it right there. You can go over to variety.com and read the rest of this article. I mean, it's dated April 8th, but it makes a reference to 10 years ago being 2005. Maybe I'm misreading that. Anyway, I'm going to move on before I fall down a rabbit hole. I thought this was interesting. In this next article is in the Word in Tech, and it's keep BTS in your pocket with a new tiny tan Tamagotchi. If you've ever wished you could spend all day long serving food to BTS, well, you probably can't. But you'll soon be able to do the next best thing: be solely responsible for keeping miniature versions of them alive on a Tamagotchi device. Bandai America has opened pre-orders for the Tiny Tan Tamagotchi, a version of the handheld game featuring the South Korean band BTS. Yeah. What do you think? This is an article over at TheVerge.com. You can pre-order it right now. Monica Chin is the author of this article. And it has a quote in here, so I'll just read the quote and we'll continue on with the news. We are incredibly excited to offer a new interactive experience with the beloved Tiny Tan characters, who are the adorable mini versions of the members of the world phenomenon BTS. Trish Garrett, brand strategist for Bandai America, said in a statement. The Tiny Tan characters add a really fun spin to the Tamagotchi play pattern fans know and love. There you go. Tiny Tan Tamagotchi. I have a coworker that gave me a tiny little Tamagotchi. I had to take the batteries out of it. Just don't have time to monitor a Tamagotchi. So the next article is Pi No More. This is in the Wanted channel. Pi No More. Raspberry Pi OS ditches longtime user account for security reasons. So no more by default is the Pi user account going to be there. Since its launch, the Raspberry Pi OS, the most operating system and most operating systems based on it, has shipped with a default Pi user account, making it similar to boot up a Pi and start working without needing to hook up a device to a monitor or go through a multi-step process. But as of today, that's changing. New installs of the Raspberry Pi OS are shedding that default user account for both security and regulatory reasons. Interesting why there's a regulatory reason to not ship with a default user. Look, I understand the security aspect of it. Don't get me wrong. If there's one person on this stream that is aware of cybersecurity concerns, well, I'm the only one on this stream. So anyway, it says here the Pi user account could potentially make a brute force attack slightly easier, and in response to this, some countries are now introducing legislation to forbid any internet connected device from having default login credentials. I don't know. Why not just make it a possible issue where you just change the password? Nothing's going to stop somebody from creating a Pi user account. This amounts to security theater to me. It forces somebody to create a Pi account. They still have to know the password or change the default password. Just don't allow a default password. At any rate, let's continue on. So the article is over at Ars Technica. It's written by Andrew Cunningham. And it says here, change could break some software that uses hard-coded directory names. Yeah, I feel like there's going to be quite a few open source programs and custom closed source programs that do exactly that. And you'll have to update, and maybe, I'm not sure if an update would require it. If you just leave it alone, maybe it'll work just fine. Don't update. But then you have security issues about patches. Oh my goodness, it's all going to be a nightmare. Right? The millennium bug all over again. It's a non-issue. So any future editions of that operating system won't have a Pi default account. So good luck, everybody. Okay, let's continue on to the next article. I thought this one was really interesting because it involves an electric Jeep. So the next article is over on the Hatch Ideas channel. It's about business. Jeep says its new electric Wrangler concept goes 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, matching Tesla's $136,000 car. I don't know what the price is for this thing, but it says the Wrangler Magneto 2 is an electric concept SUV with supercar acceleration. The Magneto 2.0 has a manual transmission and more than 600 horsepower. The one-off vehicle may indicate what to expect in future electric Wranglers. The brand will show off the electric 4x4 with several other concepts. Let's click the link and take a look at this thing. This is a BusinessInsider.com article written by Tim Levin, or Levin. It's Levin. Looks pretty neat. the scale of it, the shape, the industrial design of this makes it look um like a Hot Wheels. Like I could just pick it up and zoom around. Uh, it's pretty neat. Let's see. Well, it's a concept car, so you're not going to get a real price. Um, to me, concept vehicles are just pretty much priceless. They're one-offs. Um, they make references to Tesla's $136,000 Model S Plaid, but you know when you're putting a concept vehicle together, price might matter on the books inside, but to the public, nobody knows. Let's see. Through 2025, Stellantis aims to invest some $35 billion in electrification software and related technologies. Interesting. So the Wrangler type SUV is just one of a slew of hybrids and electric vehicles that Jeep and its parent company, Stellantis, plan to introduce in the coming years. So anybody out there a gearhead and know a lot about Stellantis? I haven't done any digging. Let's continue on to the next article. Got quite a few still. This is in the create section of ohmTown. This is under the jewel crafting channel. And I'd like to highlight uh, artists, jewelry makers, and many, many more, like not just jewels, but here the article is titled Snake Necklace Made with Patterned Brass. And it says that they've submitted many of their patterned brass creations before, so why stop now? This is a snake skin pattern, and they cut a squiggly snake and used epoxy clay to give an underbelly, and then used alcohol inks for coloring, and then sealed it. So let's take a look at this thing and see if you would dig this or not. This is an article over at jewelrymakingjournal.com. It's written by Deborah Lowe, and the pictures are provided by, I assume, Deborah Lowe. So that right there is a patterned brass snake. It's pretty neat, but it is a necklace. So there's the size of it. What do you think? If you're interested in it, you can go over to Rosebuds and then the letter N, pearls, at Etsy.com. Go check it out. Figured I'd draw some attention to an artistic creation. And it is one of the shows that I want to bring to Twitch, basically highlighting crafters, makers. Let's continue on. The next article is also involving the kind of maker space, but not the company maker. It's when they use a generic term like maker, it just kind of makes me flinch because I can't say it without feeling like I'm intruding on somebody's business name. Anyway, this is in the jewel crafting channel again. Any suggestions for our kiln for silver clay making? This is really interesting. So it's just a post by Donna Rose. Just getting started already making jewelry with semi-precious stones. Want to add silver charms and pendants, one of a kind. And so they post this link over on Jewelry Making Journal. It's an article, not an article, it's a question because it's really a discussion board kind of bloggy website. And they're asking for a kiln for silver clay making. So the reason why I clicked this is because I have noodled around with this, and you can get clay that is essentially silver, real 100% silver or 99.99% silver, but it has a clay binder that when you fire it right in a kiln, it burns off the binder and you have fused silver. that is precious silver. It's precious metal. You can polish it. You can continue to sculpt it. You can do all kinds of things with it, just like you can with regular silver, except that it starts out as clay. And it's really neat. And all you have to do is do it the right way in a kiln, and you've got jewelry, one of a kind, bespoke jewelry. And it's really neat. So I wanted to draw some attention to this. Not because I have a kiln that I would suggest, but just doing some quick search for um, jewelry firing or enamel kilns will bring up the suppliers for this. And you want a quality one. Don't go too cheap, because it will either break or break down quicker than a quality one. But if you want to get started, all you need is a tiny little one, no bigger than that right there, that you can use with either a torch, or there's even microwave kilns that you can put in, that you can use um, for certain things, not for silver clay. Temperature needs to be higher. Anyway, I'm going to continue on. The next article is over in the Smack Talk channel. This is all about Apple and whatnot. Key Apple suppliers hit by COVID-19 lockdowns, factory halts in Kunshan. The new COVID-19 outbreak in the Chinese city of Kunshan has resulted in fresh lockdowns and testing mandates, potentially snarling Apple's iPhone and iPad production. So let's click this link and take you over there. This article is over in appleinsider.com, and it's written by Mike Peterson. Every time I hear that name, I swear I know Mike Peterson, but I have yet to confirm that I actually know that person. Authorities in Kunshan have ordered all 2.1 million residents to stay at home and undergo daily testing, as neighboring Shanghai saw record COVID-19 cases for the 7th day in a row. At some point, you just vaccinate everybody, and everybody has to wear a mask. Not testing doesn't make it go away. At least they're testing. But why not get vaccinated? It's unbearable that this thing is going to persist. It, I don't know. I can't even, your mind just kind of boggles as to why people aren't getting vaccinated. The factory suspensions have been in effect since April 2nd and are set to run until April 12th. Any deterioration in the COVID-19 situation in Shanghai, however, could lead to further testing and lockdown orders in Kunshan. It just won't end until people learn their lesson. The next article is researchers recreate 17th century perfume by Konstantin Huygens. This is an article over in the Mobile channel on ohmTown, but it is provided by phys.org. So a team of researchers from Young Academy and Huygens INGNL lab have brought a 3-century-old fragrance to life based on a recipe. Let's click the link. Well, that's an interesting picture. It says a jar with the ingredients for the perfume. So this is an article on phys.org written by Dagmar Arts, Leiden University. It might be Leiden. The recipe for the fragrance is one of 150 recipes collected in a recipe book by Konstantin Huygens, who lived apparently from 1596 to 1687. The researchers also found references to perfume in previously unexamined correspondence by Huygens. The letters reveal a very personal side to the man who is known as the secretary to Princess of Orange. A poet, a musician, and a scholar. The recipe book and correspondence show that Huygens was also an amateur parfumier who swapped recipes with men and women. A group of academics decided to recreate one of his scents. They chose Hugin's recipe, eau de parfum to my mother. I won't try and pronounce it. Other than that, quote, we think this scent was to keep the memory of his mother alive after her death, says Haneke, I guess. Holst, professor of neuropsychology in health and disease. Quote, regions of the brain that are involved in processing emotions and our memory sit side by side in our brain. When a smell is linked to a strong emotion, positive or negative, this creates a deep-seated memory. It is very special to be able to smell a scent that was most probably of great emotional value to Hugin's. That might be why I have such a reaction to tequila. I'm going to continue on to the next article. This is if aliens were sending us signals, this is what they might look like. For more than 60 years, scientists have been searching the cosmos for possible signs of radio transmission that would indicate the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence. Pardon me 1 second. It says, in addition to having never detected a radio signal of extraterrestrial origin, there is a wide range of possible forms that such a broadcast could take. So, this is an article over at phys.org, written by Matt Williams, Universe Today. Wow, that is a huge topic, Universe Today. In short, SETI, S-E-T-I, search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Researchers must assume what a signal might look like, but without the benefits of any known examples. Recently, an international team led by the University of California and a SETI Institute developed a new machine learning tool that simulates what it might look like for a signal to come from an extraterrestrial intelligence. It's known as Cetigen, an open source library that could be a game changer for future SETI research. Yeah, I don't know about stuff like this. It might be a good mover, move the decimal point a little bit, but uh, we are bound by our human concept of communication and technology. We are what we make, and I just don't know how we would detect something and understand it. It would have to be so obvious that this is something from an intelligence and not something of nature. Plus, by the time there's so much space between, you know, planets, that I just don't see how we're going to capture that signal as we travel through space and they travel through space. It would have to be aligned so perfectly that it hits our little ball. So let's continue on with the next article. Again, I think these are interesting articles because they impact business, technology, and society. This particular one has to do with police here in the United States. Amir Locke was fatally shot and killed by Minneapolis police officers executing a no-knock search warrant in February, and now those warrants are banned in the city. Their intent is always the whole shock and awe kind of response, which immediately causes a person to react in a survival mode. It doesn't cause someone to calmly react to somebody trying to uh, imprison someone. Okay. I mean, if you go barging into somebody's house, their response is going to be one of defense. Where we came up with this history of no knock warrants being effective, the brainchild of somebody, it makes me wonder if anybody has reviewed anything sociological or psychological um, in terms of the research of the human condition. People don't react positively to people barging in, screaming at them. In fact, I would say that they do something rash, and uh, they're going to panic. They're going to act out. They're going to lash out. They're going to throw something, or uh, gosh, if they have a gun, then they reach for it, and that instantly causes a police force to fire on them, and so you end up with immediate execution of a human being whose initial response is to survive whatever is about to happen. So this article is over at ABC News. It's written by Chiara Alfonseca. And I'm just going to pause this. I've watched this video previously. Um, as far as I saw, you know, I don't know. I'm I've looked at it several times and I thought I saw something in there, but I just don't know. Um, and so when I read about it, I don't I don't see any reference. So I must be seeing things at any rate. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't agree with no knocks. There's better ways of doing things like this. Um, anyway, so if you want to read more about it, definitely go over to the ABC News article that is linked through ohmTown. This next article is in Law Nerd. New York AG moves for $10,000 contempt fines after Trump responds to discovery with two big middle fingers. And this again speaks to what I was talking about at the very beginning of this episode, which is when you have great wealth, you can literally get away with anything. If I were called before the New York AG in response to inquiry and I failed to respond, I would literally be in jail right now. Not figuratively being held in contempt and somebody asking nicely if I'm going to if I feel like I'm compelled and I want to respond. No, I would be in jail right now for contempt. $10,000 is nothing. I mean, the family wealth is beyond what most people are going to make in their lifetime, let alone it making money simply by existing in an investment somewhere. um, $10,000, even if it was $10,000 a day, that family wealth before Trump even touched it, let alone the entire family doing things, feeding into the pool of family wealth. $10,000, it's a joke. So it says the Post New York AG moves for $10,000 contempt fines after Trump responds to discovery with two big middle fingers appeared first on Above the Law. So when I click this link, we're going to go over to the Above the Law website. And it's written by Liz Dye. And yeah, sure enough, it's a contempt of court and fine for $10,000 a day for failing to comply with a discovery order. And instead of just flat out holding them in contempt and charging them, then going down that road, I guess not. I guess it doesn't matter. When you have great wealth, and it's not even the fact that he's a former president, for crying out loud. He's a private citizen again. Yeah, but it's about the wealth. It's about being a, a, a rich white dude. Anyway, if you want to read more about it, you can go over to Above the Law. Just follow the link. So the next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. This I speak of because of the sociological aspects of it. You may not, again, be interested in this kind of thing, But the reality is you can't distance yourself forever from this stuff. So learning about it and being a part of change is sort of one of the pillars of ohmTown. Um, uh, a Russian rocket that struck a Ukrainian train station and killed a dozen or dozens of people. I think I can't remember how many people now. I think it's somewhere in the 35 or 40. And no, I think it might be up to 50 now. Anyway, a Russian rocket that struck a Ukrainian train station and killed dozens of people had written on its side for the children. And it just goes straight to sociopathic, nearly psychopathic, complete disdain for humans that have zero bearing on the reality of another country. Zero. Um, it it is beyond me to understand how somebody could do that. And I don't care if it came from the United States or if it came from Russia or if it came from within Ukraine, dissidents trying to blow up other Ukrainians. It is psychopathic to do something like that, to be so hateful, to write for the children on a rocket. So twisted. Why humans are like that and why society tolerates that. It's all about education. It's all about raising people as humans, empathetic, sympathetic, compassionate, not treating other people as if they're animals, and being able to marginalize them because of their geolocation or their race or their socioeconomic status. But I will probably be called names for it, but that's fine. The article is over at businessinsider.com and it's written by Jake Epstein. And you can go over and read more about it if you are so inclined. So it looks here like it says at least 50 people were killed and over 100 injured after 2 Russian rockets hit a train station in the Donetsk Oblast. Just twisted, folks. Okay. Let's continue on with the next article. TSMC had 17 billion in Q1 revenue despite waning demand and shortages. And this is again a matter of record profits, supposedly in a global downturn. Uh, the more I read, the more I witness, it screams profiteering about things. Anyway, this is in the Smack Talk channel. It says Apple supplier Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company reported revenue of $17 billion in the first quarter of 2022, an increase of 36% year over year. The chipmaker's revenues reached 491.1 billion in the January quarter, beating out analyst estimates of 469.4 billion. Let's click the link. It'll take us over to appleinsider.com. Mike Peterson is the author. This picture that's on the page looks like a render, not like an actual company. Not like a real picture. Anyway, you can go over to Apple Insider and read more about this. It says back in March, the chipmaker also warned that an ongoing semiconductor shortage would bump up production costs for silicon manufacturers, technology firms, and others in the industry. Eventually, the company said those price increases would be passed on to consumers. Yeah, well, if you have record profits, guess what? And you're raising the prices, you're not shrinking your margin. So I guess everybody else suffers. It's an increase of 17% from the month of February, the chipmaker said in a statement Friday. So again, this is something that I've talked about in previous episodes. If the cost for materials is increasing and you end up having record profits on the other side, you're raising the prices well beyond the compensation of the increased source materials. particularly if you're saying that you have constrained manufacturing capabilities. You're raising the prices. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I understand the business processes here, folks, but we're all supposed to be suffering from this pandemic. You know, some more than others. The next article is in the Word in Tech. Climate researchers claim there's a sustainable path forward for basic materials sector. The new UN climate report shows that the zero emissions goal of 2050 is achievable. However, it will require major changes in all sectors, not least in industry, which currently accounts for a large portion of global emissions. The researchers identified several sustainable paths forward, but some sectors, above all in plastics and chemicals, are still searching for potential transition routes. I'm pretty sure there's solutions out there. Just got to find them. So this is an article over at phys.org, and it's written by Lund University. And it says here, mitigating climate change is the theme of the third sub-report from the UN Climate Panel's sixth assessment. Since the fifth assessment 8 years ago, the Paris Agreement has been added. Many countries have made climate commitments, and several of them show a sustained reduction in their emissions. So it goes into greater detail over at phys.org, but you can definitely go and find out more about it. And plastics, finding a solution for plastics is going to be interesting to say the least, because we're finding microplastics inside human bodies as well as in animals, and then we consume that, and it adds to it. It's kind of like lead. We got rid of lead because it was permeating everything, and it was building up inside us, human beings, and now it's plastic is showing up inside human beings. Microplastics that are being shed by plastic that we use every day. Let's find a natural solution for this, something that we can absorb in our body and expel or something. But I don't want plastic floating around in my lungs, let alone in my tissues. But apparently that's what's happening. So go over and read that article and then come back and talk to me about it. And these will be in the show notes, by the way. The next article is in the Daily News Show. Mom uses iPhone feature to track down son taken during carjacking. A mother in Atlanta, Georgia, used the Find My iPhone feature to help police rescue her 9-year-old son who was taken during a carjacking. So we've got multiple issues here, the least of which is the technology for tracking down somebody. The worst of this is that somebody felt compelled to, I'm going to pause this video, felt compelled to steal a car with a human being in it. At least they could have let the person out and then take the car. But anyway, this article is written by Yi Jin Yu. I'm not sure what GMA is. Good Morning America. Okay. And this is an ABC News article. And they used Find My app to use the GPS and track down where the car and the kid was. In a statement posted Wednesday on its Facebook page, the police department said Jerica Moore had pulled into a parking lot on Monday morning and gotten out, but left her car running with the keys in the ignition and her 9-year-old inside when a man jumped into the vehicle and drove off with her boy still in the car. I've actually heard people say, well, she shouldn't have done that. She was just asking for it. And I'm like, my gosh, anybody who makes that statement has to be sociopathic. It's such a prevalent thing. Statements like that, and me making the claim that somebody has to be sociopathic. You're blaming the victim for something that society shouldn't even be contemplating. Why are people stealing cars? Because they think that they can get away with it. They think that there's an opportunity there. They think that they can make money there. All of that speaks to the fact that they lack education, they lack opportunity. There is a need to solve something, and instead of solving it, we bolster law enforcement. We don't go to the heart of it, which is education, coping skills, communication, opportunity. That is what solves these problems. Yet we don't really address it. We speak to it in pithy statements about funding public schools, except that when you are reading into this, when you go and look and do research, you find out that a lot of crime takes place around um, less privileged areas, and the schools get less tax money, have high population, can't hire high quality across the board educators, and they are overtaxed even at any level, 30, 40 people in a classroom, when you really need to stay closer to 18 or less. Yeah, we have priorities off target quite a bit. Because people are more interested in making money themselves than being a benefit to society. And they think that money alone is a benefit to society. Yes, money makes things happen. The right people with copious amounts of money make the right things happen. But generosity is far and few between. There's quite a bit of it, don't get me wrong. But generosity alone shouldn't be what powers society. So I'm going to continue on to the next article. I think that we'll be right on target for an hour. And this next article is in Law Nerd. Ed Sheeran gets it. As he wins his copyright lawsuit, he decries quote unquote culture of bogus copyright suits. So it's over and above the law. I'm going to click the link because there isn't much in the snippet other than saying that he gets it. This is an article by TechDirt on abovethelaw.com. And they had spoken about this already, copyright lawsuits and whatnot. But it says here, let's scroll down. In case that video disappears or you're not able to watch it, here's a transcript. So you'll have to go over to Above the Law. You can follow the link that's in the show notes, and it'll take you over to Above the Law. But it says here, hey guys, me, Johnny, and Steve have made a joint statement that will be a press release on the outcome of this case. But I wanted to make a small video to talk about it a bit because I've not really been able to talk about it whilst it's been going on. So it says here, there's only so many notes and very few chords used in pop music. Coincidence is bound to happen if 60,000 songs are being released every day on Spotify. That's 22 million songs a year, and there's only 12 notes that are available. Hopefully we can all get back to writing songs rather than having to prove that we can write them, is their statement. And says, I don't want to take anything away from the pain, hurt suffered from both sides of this case, but I want to say I'm not an entity. I'm not a corporation. I'm a human being. I'm a father and I'm a husband and I'm a son. Lawsuits are not a pleasant experience, and I hope that with this ruling in the future, baseless claims like this can be avoided. This really does have to end. So I've spoken about this. At one point, I had licensing that allowed me to play music. I couldn't on Twitch because I wanted it to be stored as a VOD. I wanted to be able to publish it on the podcast. I wanted to be able to publish it over on YouTube. The problem there is anything that's stored has different rights. And it's so balkanized that there's no real easy clearinghouse, and it's quite expensive to obtain those rights. If there are multiple people that are involved in a song, the writing credits, that's another license. The the storage, the syncing license, that's another license. There's money, 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 money. This is so big. There's so much momentum there, so much kinetic energy that the legal system for it um, will endeavor to protect itself. Not just the legal, I shouldn't say it like that. It's not the law that's empowering this. It's not the legal system that's empowering this. It's people that are protecting their wealth for an extended period of time. I mean, well beyond what a patent would protect. Yet everybody is dealing with music. We're talking about the construction of songs, just like Sharon just said. The constructions of songs are stuck within uh, a finite number of notes, but it's ultimately the way it's constructed is like DNA. Everybody is unique, but sometimes you get dangerously close to somebody else and it turns into a copyright battle instead of somebody saying neat song. Even if I took a little segment of somebody else's song, that is enough for a lawsuit to bury somebody because they can't compete with somebody that already has money. And again, it comes down to money. You can't defend yourself long enough from a case if you don't have enough money. And most attorneys aren't going to do pro bono work for a copyright case because it can take an extraordinary amount of time and effort to prove. And this isn't the final article, not just about this, but for today. Enough about this. We can talk about copyright, patents, trademarks, intellectual property, and law in another show. Because I would end up going down a spiral on this topic because it's so frustrating for me. I want to put on a show that involves talking about music, and I can't because I'm not allowed to play the songs that are the subject of the discussion, but not the reason why people are gathering to talk about them. We want to talk about the music and like the meaning behind it and then take that song and mix it up. And I want to have a competition where people can take songs, chop them all up and make them something unique. But I can't play the source music. I can play the songs that people take and mix it up when they mix it up and they give it to me, and I can play the songs. But that source material, if it triggers a DMCA notice, I'm shut down permanently. I'm shut down. So, at any rate, I'm going to continue on. This is the last article, and I wanted to end on this. And then I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my night because it seems like this stream today is frustrating me beyond no end. But I thought that this was funny and sad in terms of what this society is providing me for news today. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene calls the police on Jimmy Kimmel because he made a joke calling her a snowflake and a sociopath a snowciopath. So I'm going to click this link. It'll take us over to the New York Times. And the author of this is Trish Bendix. So there's quite a bit in this article to consume and really enjoy in terms of, wow, this is crazy. How does this happen? But basically, Jimmy Kimmel made this comment, and then to stay in the spotlight, Marjorie Taylor Greene says, this threat of violence against me by Jimmy Kimmel has been filed with the Capitol Police, and she tweeted it. But it's because he said, where's Will Smith when you need him? Which is just a meta joke. And she leveraged her position to go after satire. Yeah. I mean, this person is cracking a joke, and it's pretty a rational human being, uh, a common sense human being would realize that this is a joke, because all he's saying is, "Where's Will Smith?" Because he went up on stage and slapped somebody. This isn't a threat. This is a joke, much like she is. But it says here on our show Tuesday night, MTG, Clan Mom, as we call her, earlier in the day, called 3 of her fellow Republicans pro-pedophile for supporting Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's nomination to the Supreme Court, which is lovely. This is all Jimmy Kimmel's quote. A lovely thing to say. So I made a joke. I said, "Where is Will Smith when you need him?" And the audience laughed, and then she saw it, and she decided she was going to get some political mileage out of this. Yeah. And called Capitol Police. Yeah. This is where we are, folks. So, most of the time, my stream, my news show here, the daily news show, doesn't have a lot of politics. But sometimes it all merges over: technology, business, sociology, society in general. And in this case, that's exactly what happened. If he would have said that to somebody in a coffee shop somewhere or at a bar, it would never have gone anywhere. But because technology has the ability to transcend everything and reach across the planet instantaneously, you end up with somebody else taking exception to it, and then apparently calling, you can call somebody a pro pedophile apparently, but you can't say, "Where's Will Smith?" It's beyond me. Okay. Well, anyway, as usual, 20 or so articles that I talk about here on ohmTown Daily News Show. Once you go back to ohmTown.com, you just click that page, it'll refresh. Will Smith is barred from attending the Oscars for 10 years because of that slap, by the way. Well, he's already bowed out, so he probably doesn't even care, and he has his millions. And Jada Pinkett Smith is now saying that she wishes that he had never done that slap. Oof, hot mess. Just got to step away. Got to step away. Except that I enjoy movies and will probably stumble across the pair again. At any rate, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of this. Entertaining. And I will see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, for another set of news from ohmTown.com. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.